Well, hello everyone. I'm here at the Islamic Council of Victoria with Imam Abdino, and I'm really appreciative of his time. It's a very busy time in his schedule this morning. It's Friday prayers today, and he's preparing a couple of sermons. So thank you, Abdino, for giving me 10 minutes of your time this morning. It's great to be here at the Islamic Council of Victoria, here on Spencer Street. And I want to thank you for your hospitality. I've got a cup of tea here, so
at the least you can.
Thank you so much. I just want to ask you a couple of questions, Abdino, coming from the perspective of someone who's teaching people how to offer spiritual care in the context of hospitals and prisons and schools and other public places. I'm wondering whether you would be able, just very briefly, to explain for our students what the core principles and values and beliefs of Islam are.
Thank you very much, Chris, for coming and choosing us from all the other organizations that are providing care and support for the wider Australian community. The principles in Islam are three components. The first component is the belief system, the faith system, what we believe. So believing in one unique God, believing in all the books, the texts that the divine text came from God, believing in all the messengers that has been sent by God, and also believing in the angels. But I think one of the most important aspect also is the belief of the hereafter, the second life, where everybody will be accountable for their past deeds, their deeds in this life. That plays very, very strong role in the belief of the Muslims, and I think that's the drive for them in their actions, or at least it should be the drive of their actions and inactions, that whatever you do, you will be accountable. We have the practical aspects where the Muslims do, and I think the basic things are the 5 daily prayers that we perform from the dawn to late in the evening, fasting during the month of Ramadan, giving charity, which is 2.5% of your wealth belongs to the needy, it doesn't belong to you. And I think the other aspect is the performing the Hajj to Mecca. It's this time every year, and it's happening as we speak now in Mecca, where millions and millions of Muslims are coming around the world. In fact, they're coming from every major city or town in the world.
That's extraordinary.
Amazing. That is also one of the practices the Muslims do. I think the third aspect is the what we call the ethics of the Muslims, that who you are as a person, the qualities, the virtues that we have in terms of being honest, truthful, trustworthy, all those good qualities. As a human being, we all would like to adhere to and would like to have them. These are also part of the. So these are the three components, and we call Iman, Islam, and Akhlaq. So Iman is the faith, Islam is the practical aspects of it. Akhlaq are the manners that the person needs to have.
Wow, that's fascinating. I've never actually heard of those three. I've had lots of conversations with Muslim friends and imams and so on, and I really appreciate you describing those three elements, because I haven't heard it described that way before. So how many Muslim people from Melbourne would you estimate go to the Hajj from here every year?
Look, when I was in the Hajj a few years back, and when we also have representatives from the Saudi Arabian Kingdom, they actually believe that we get bigger than our share. Because given that there's 1.5, 1.6 billion people around the world, what do? They try to give them a percentage.
So they try and manage that.
Manage that of the number. But when it comes to Australia, they said we know, because I think the Muslims in Australia are around 500,000. Give and take. They give us a little bit more our share. I think we have tens of thousands of Muslims going there around, maybe a little bit under 10,000, a little bit under 10,000 Muslims go from around. And I think in Melbourne we take a very big share of that. We only the imams who are leading groups that I know are around 10 people. So just say maybe 2,000, 3,000 from Melbourne.
What a wonderful experience that would be.
It's amazing. It is. It's an eye-opening journey when you have millions of people coming together, speaking different languages, and it's really amazing. It's really eye-opening journey.
Wow. Now, as you know, and as we all know, some of the most challenging times for our faith, if we're people of faith, can be when we find ourselves sick and in hospital, or when we find ourselves on the wrong side of the law and in prison, or when we're in new social environments like schools or sporting clubs and so on. The way we practice our faith can be challenged in those environments, which is often why organisations employ people who offer spiritual care, so care that is sensitive to the needs of people's spiritual lives. Let's take a hospital, for example. If a Muslim person, and I know all Muslim people are different, but let's just take your sort of average Muslim person who found themselves in hospital and for an extended stay, for example, how would the hospital staff, in particular the spiritual care staff, sensitively help that person to fulfill their religious practice day in and day out, or indeed to listen to their questions, their faith questions and concerns and so on? And I understand that many of those things are most appropriately met by an imam or someone from their own faith who can respond to those things, but that's not always possible. So how would you describe that in terms of perhaps the most important things that would need to be put in place in a hospital for a Muslim person?
Thank you very much, Chris. It's very important and it's a very sensitive time. And I think when people are weaker, especially when they are tested, they become more spiritual, they become more religious to some extent and spiritual, and they would like to connect, and they would like to reconnect even if they were not, if they were connected before, and they would like to increase their practices. I think there are two aspects of the support that the individual can give, and one of them, I think, the people who's going through this difficult time, to remain positive and encourage them to remain positive. It is very encouraging from religious perspective, to be very kind and be conscious that these people are going through. So even with spirituality, you don't push them to do things. You can even at the last minute when you see them, their life is coming to end. You are never supposed to push them. Even you think that's the best for them. Always just encourage them, offer the opportunity, but never impose, never bring or put pressure on the individual, because you never understand what they're going through. And I'm glad you have mentioned in terms of the cultural diversity, because I think this is the strength of our communities in general, but also in the Muslim community. But at the same time, when it comes to surface provision, it becomes a bit of weakness, because you don't have that silver bullet that you can give to everybody and do it. Muslims from Horn of Africa, East Africa could be definitely different to Muslims from Asia, from Indonesia and Malaysia and those countries, from even other Asian countries like India and Pakistan, from North African countries. So those communities will have their cultural elements that are part of their the practice also in the religion.
It's really important to note.
To keep that in mind always and ask them where they're coming from. I think the other advice I would give is that it will be good always to know where they're coming from, and maybe make a few phone calls and ask people who in that community, what can we do for this person specifically. The other point I would like to mention is that given that those people are not specialists, is providing them whatever these people are requesting, and having services like, if people would like to read some of the texts, those holy texts are available. If there is a language issue, because not all the Muslims speak Arabic.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Actually, the Muslims who speak Arabic are minority.
Yeah, okay.
So having those texts may be available for them in their own language, if that can be happening. So asking them, what language do you speak? And providing those texts available for them, and asking questions on behalf of them. I think, and I received that, and I know some of the hospitals are doing a great job when it comes to this. Calling me and saying, okay, we've got somebody from that background. What can we do? How can we help? How do you help? So always asking. I don't expect them to know all the answers, but to be open-minded and being, because some of the issue some of the time is, those people may don't have any understanding. They may grow up in Australia, lived all their life in Australia, and find that they're Australian, culturally, language, everything, they're Australian.
Yes.
But now, because their parents or their grandparents came from another country, now they need to practice something that, or they want to practice something they have no experience. So sometimes being that advocacy, being that person who runs around for them and get that information for them will be the best answer. So I would like to summarize and say, in terms of the approach, be very gentle always. Encourage, don't push. Even if you have the answer, encourage, don't ever push.
Yes.
Provide, give the opportunity and offer, leave them to take it.
Yes.
There is no expectations. There is no religious obligation that at that time we expected them to, go up and do things more than they did in the past. And then again, find out for them and try to make those services available. Other things will be, the practical things. If they, for example, they would like to perform some of the worship aspects, making those things available. If they want to make the ablution, the wudu, for example, being creative. And some of the things I found when I was in the Hajj, need creative sometimes. It needs a very creative. I've seen people who are actually using spray water to make the ablution. Interesting, because if the person cannot stand up and go into the toilet to make the wudu, then having a bottle of water as a spray and in a warm water, and then have a towel on their lap, and then give them the spray on their face, and while the towel is on their lap, so that the water doesn't go, it's very lightly spray on their hands and spray on their legs, and then they can dry themselves and perform their prayers in that way.
Beautiful.
Instead of them going. So being that creative and providing and answering the need, I think.
Which is beautiful, because as I understand it, as someone described to me once, Allah looks on the intention of the heart. And so the intention of that person is to fulfill their
absolutely. It's a principle says that the intention, your intention is better than your action. That is and it's true. Yes. Having said that, we still are required to perform some sort of activities based on our ability. So if the person would like to perform, then and they would like to do the prayers, then finding out where the direction of the Qibla for them, for example, where do you face? That's very important for the person. Where do I face? And then speaking to the hospital and seeing if it's possible, for example, if the person cannot move, if it's possible that they have a bed that faces towards the direction of Mecca, which is very much west now. It's the west, very close to the west. So these are the basic things I would think, this person needs to face the Qibla, let's speak to the hospital. If, for example, they are in this room, which they cannot access, it's possible to take them to another room. So that advocacy role of it will be very helpful. So the intention is absolutely, and being gentle and kind, not only to all the sick people. I think that's the approach we need to be very, very, I think, careful, because they are in pain.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't want to put pressure on them.
Absolutely. Abdanu, I'm very aware that time is running away from us and you have a lot to do today. So thank you again for giving me these few moments to share from your wisdom and your experience.
And thank you very much, Chris, for coming. Thank you. And I wish you all success in caring for those people who are really in need.
Thank you.
At that time, where they cannot do for themselves, it's a really great job. And thank you for also training our hospital chaplains. And
it's a pleasure.
They do a great job. They really do a great job. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.